Hey.
I have a question for the database manager of the school.
Yes.
So Candace receives emails. She forwards them to me. I don't. There's only one parent listed, or do I have to create a separate account?
No,
Can I put,
you
two
you
emails
can
in
put
one?
2 emails in there. Oh, show.
I'm gonna ask them today. Bet you guys like oatmeal.
Some people don't like the consistency.
I'll put in the words, young people can understand. It's like a banger that always hits.
I don't think I've ever unironically
Here we go.
used banger.
Time to catch a look at today's forecast. Here is WBRZ meteorologist Marissa Nuzzo.
Yesterday, temperatures will climb into the low 90s hours and storms develop in the afternoon. That means that there will be dry skies this morning for any first day of school photos. Then there will be on and off showers during school dismissal time as well as during the evening. Temperatures overnight will be in the mid-70s. Later this week, the risk for heavy rain and flooding does increase, so make sure you're staying connected to the storm station and you have a way to receive watches and warnings.
You know what cuts out music for me?
No. We'll get to it next segment. .606 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane off and running. Brian here with you. Cade Wasan producing. Good morning. Good Tuesday morning, everybody. So we should all be in school as of today. Is that right? Everybody's back? Everybody's back? Just making sure. EBR West Baton Rouge, both yesterday. When Dr. Cade Brumley tell us last week, if you were already in last week, Catholic schools get in today. It's about that time, y'all. Crank it up. Back to the routine. Gotta love it. Hey, we got a busy show for you today, and I do mean a busy, busy show today. We are going to talk with Jeff Crouere, the host of Ringside Politics. Look, I want to take a pretty deep dive into the Inflation Reduction Act. We're going to hear from Jeff Crouere about it. We're going to hear from Nathan Brand from the RNC about it. And then before the show's over with, we're going to hear from Congressman Troy Carter about it. So you will be given both sides when it comes to the Inflation Reduction Act. Jeff Crouere, we'll talk a little bit about the Inflation Reduction Act. We'll talk a little bit about the FBI raiding Mar-a-Lago. And I was texting back and forth with Jeff yesterday saying, hey, were you dialed in on what went down at CPAC over the weekend in Dallas? He said, yes. I said, good. Let's talk about it. Because the polls that came out of there are, I don't want to say odd, but I wasn't expecting the numbers to be what the numbers were. At 635. 652, the brother and sister filmmaking duo of Cassidy and Clark Freeman are going to join me. Truth be told, they've already joined me. Interviews already recorded. Cassidy and Clark were they were the, I don't want to say brains behind, producers and stars of a movie called Yellow Brick Road. Came out a decade ago today, and it's now being re-released on Blu-ray and digital DVD. Yellow Brick Road is not just a horror film, but it's in that same mindset and genre of Blair Witch Project. It's more the mental thriller, the psychological thriller, the waiting for the jump scare, but it's all in your head. Fun conversation. That'll be at 6:52. In the 7 o'clock hour, I mentioned Nathan Brand. He is from the Republican National Committee, going to join me to talk about the Inflation Reduction Act and a couple of the tidbits from inside the act, really. I want to know about adding to the IRS's workforce. I want to know how does that reduce inflation. I want to know how this thing really caught on like wildfire, being called an Inflation Reduction Act when most of what it does is exploring the green space. Most of what it does addresses or attempts to address climate change. Nathan Brand, 7:15, 7:35. Baton Rouge Police Chief Murphy Paul slated to join us there. We love catching up with the chief every so often. In the 8 o'clock hour, State Treasurer John Schroder is going to join us. We've got a stack of topics to cover with the treasurer. And then we'll round out the guest list with Congressman Troy Carter for D.C. Current. Hey, before we get anywhere this morning, I do want to spend, 20, 30, maybe even 60 seconds on what's going on in the Atlantic right now. Because as we went all of July with nary a blip on the radar, as if on cue, second week of August, little yellow X right off the coast of Africa. Here's the thing, though. It's not worth freaking out about yet, obviously. It's not even worth really any sense of emergency yet. But we will keep an eye on it. Here's what's going on. As of 1 o'clock this morning, a tropical wave continues to produce a large area of disorganized cloudiness and thunderstorms over the eastern tropical Atlantic, a few hundred miles southwest of the Cabo Verde Islands. Gradual development of the system is possible, and a tropical depression could form around the middle of the latter portion of the week before environmental conditions become less favorable by this weekend. This system is expected to move westward to west-northwestward at 15 to 20 miles per hour across the tropical Atlantic during the next several days. Formation chance for 48 hours, low, 20%. Formation chance over 5 days, medium, 40%. Now, like I said, highly doubt it's going to be anything. The conditions this coming weekend should help out a lot with that. But the map has been so empty and so lonely, I felt I should share. All right, quick break. When we come back, Mike Denbrock spoke with the media yesterday. He is LSU's offensive coordinator, and we've got audio for you next on Talk 107.3. Grazie. Read off the titles to me.
Making strides with consistency of offense, running backs and tight ends and passing game.
That one. How long is it? Okay. Give me one more.
What are they looking for in a QB?
That one. Okay. That'll be it. Yes. Running backs, tight ends in the passing game. Do what? What? Yeah. Yeah. Yo. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 8:15 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Sports time. As part of training camp, media had access to offensive coordinator Mike Denbrock out at LSU yesterday, and we had a lot of folks talking about how it's just unusual to have access to the assistant coaches. And around here, it has been, to be sure. It gives you a different perspective leading into the season. Gives you a different look at. You get a little bit more up close and personal. From head coaches, you're going to get a lot more, cursory response. From an offensive coordinator, you're going to hear a lot more about, the offense. And in particular, maybe utilizing the running backs and tight ends in the passing game.
They are going to be a big piece of what we do. Tight ends, if we can make sure that we continue their development, and the running backs in particular, are just going to make everybody around them better if they become a viable option in the passing game. The more options that we have, the more threats that we have, and particularly with the wide receiver group that we have, I think we're all feeling pretty good about the depth that's in that room and how explosive those guys are. People are going to do things to try to take those guys out of the game, and when they do, that's going to lead some opportunities to some other guys, whether that be a back or a tight end or whoever that happens to be, and we got to get people ready to make those plays.
I love to hear it. The more weapons you can have in your arsenal for your quarterback, the better your offense is going to be. I think anybody who's been a Saints fan for the last decade and a half can attest to that. I mean, you can go to your wide receivers all day long, but if the wide receiver is the only guy that's got to be covered, or guys that have to be covered, it narrows the offense. Yes, Kayshon Boutte has the potential to be all-world. But if Kayshon Boutte is getting help because a pass here or there is going to John Emery or Jack Mashburn or Noah Kane or Cole Taylor, that opens things up a great deal. By the way, who's that pass coming from? Still don't know yet, but what are they looking for in a quarterback? Here we go.
Number one, we want someone who can run the system of offense that we're putting in. And it's an adjustable system. So that doesn't mean, hey, well, I remember where Coach came from, so that must mean this guy's got a leg up. It doesn't mean that. What it means more is what's in place for our offensive unit with the skill players that we have and who we have offensively playing to the strengths of that unit. So whoever really commands that the best and really who kind of takes ownership of the offense. We're looking for those guys to compete with each other, of course, but we're also looking for those guys to kind of, somebody step out in front, somebody take the reins of this thing and really kind of be that guy that everybody looks to that upholds the standard of playing quarterback at LSU. And so those things in particular, yeah, of course, we don't want somebody who throws interceptions or fumbles the ball around or doesn't know how to check protections. But more than anything, I think the strength of the unit a lot of times, and especially we're a very quarterback-driven system, that guy's got to have command of what we're doing out there.
Hey, remember when a minute ago I said you get a lot more inside look and perspective of the offense if you're talking to the offensive coordinator? Yeah, just flush that down the toilet. That was a full minute of coach speak. He took 60 seconds to say whoever's going to serve us best. All right. Anyway, LSU, for the first time since the year 2000, for the first time since the year 2000, LSU's not in the preseason top 25. Last time the Tigers were unranked heading into the preseason coaches poll, we were moving from DiNardo to Saban. So, not really sweating it because, we were in pretty good hands then. But yeah, LSU not showing up in the preseason top 25. Your top 5 are as follows. Alabama's number 1, Ohio State's number 2, Georgia 3, Clemson 4, Notre Dame 5. Looking at the rest of the top 25, we're seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 SEC teams throughout the top 25. Here's Fox Business. One of those mornings where I could go on and talk sports for an hour. Hey, morning, Christy. You are going to crush today. Today is going to be awesome. I've been excited about today for some time. This is going to be a big, big, good day for you. Looking forward to it, and I'm proud of you. I don't have YouTube open yet. I should open YouTube. Yeah, I've been a little bit behind the 8 ball. I've got to go edit 2 minutes out of, hey, that Cassidy and Clark Freeman interview. How long is it? I got to edit a minute 40 out. It's playing back in an 8-minute segment. So when we get the news at the bottom of the hour, go ahead and close it out. And I'll go down and prod one. Prod one. Baby. Eric says, damn thing looks like it'll stay weak and not go north and do the bend into the Atlantic. Not go north? Well, eventually go north. But I don't think it's going to make it that far. And by the way, good morning, everybody, and checking us out on the YouTubes. Do what? Yeah. A couple $100 million. $400 or $500 million. Yeah. In the Poe House? No. Alex Jones has been bilking people of their money for a good bit of time now. Well, like everything, there's a subscription side that'll, yeah. Did you get I forgot Alondra wasn't on. Did she forward you the email with the song?
Oh, yes, you did. So you want that here?
Yeah. Not yet. I'll call for it. After the cuts. Somebody reset my clock to Japan. That's weird. It's not 8:24 p.m. It's 6:25 a.m. Talk 107.3 FM. So weird. I look up, it just says 8:25 p.m. No, we're not on Tokyo time. We are on Baton Rouge time, where school is back in as of today for pretty much everywhere. We'll get into that in just a minute. Do want to take a quick look at what went down at the state capitol yesterday. Lawmakers questioned the Department of Children and Family Services after a Baton Rouge toddler died from an overdose, this fentanyl overdose apparently, and the agency was notified twice before that child was in danger. DCFS Secretary Marquetta Garner-Walters says,
I am heartbroken at the loss of any child, especially one that has had some contact with our agency, because it means the safety net that we are supposed to have as a society is not strong enough.
Walters says they're investigating and reviewing where things went wrong so they can learn how to prevent such a tragedy in the future. But she says their ongoing staffing shortage is a major factor.
We have been tackling problems that, in large part, are due to the loss of the 500 child welfare professionals that we still have not replaced.
And while the public and lawmakers want answers immediately, Walters says a thorough investigation takes time, and their current system prevents a quick turnaround.
Because we are pulling from 5 antiquated systems. We are interviewing all community stakeholders. We're working with law enforcement. We're working with hospitals. Because when we create the record, we want that record to be accurate.
Really debating in my head right now whether or not I want to be the jerk. And I kind of think I want to be the jerk. Am I the only one thinking that this is going to lead to absolutely nothing? From a legislative end or from a bureaucratic end? Am I the only one sitting here thinking that, yes, they speak with emotion. She obviously sounds very sad. But when you expect a bureaucracy to replace a family, you're never going to get anywhere. When you expect a governmental entity to replace what would be a family, your results are going to be about that. It's sad that it happened. And I'm telling you right now, it's going to happen again. Probably going to happen a lot more. But there's only so much that the government can do to run our lives. We can see government intervention. We can see government overreach. We can see the government try to have a stake in every aspect of our lives from the cradle to the grave. But there's only so much they can actually pull off when it comes to replacing what the family unit is and what the family unit does. At a certain point, it's got to be a numbers game. And numbers-wise, they can sit back and say, yeah, this one was sad, but it's only one, and nobody bats 1,000. I'm not expecting much right there. 628, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. We're going to lighten it up in just a second. I got to tell you about the folks over at Complete Collision Center first, though. 2 locations, Plank Road in Zachary, Perkins in Baton Rouge, just east of Bluebonnet. I'm a customer of Complete Collision Center. I am a customer of Complete Collision Center because when you get into an accident, you get to pick. It's up to you where to take your car. I was 2 different occasions. On one, I backed into a light pole. Yep, I'll admit it. I did it. It was stupid. On the other, I got run off the road and bottomed the car out. Both times, Complete Collision Center was unbelievably thorough in seeking or finding hidden damage, searching my car up one side and down the other and inside and out to make sure that once I was back on the road, I was back on the road safely. And they did. I couldn't be more satisfied as a customer every step along the way. You can check them out online at CompleteCollision.com, CompleteCollision.com. Give them a call at 768-9898. Don't let who you choose to repair your vehicle be your second accident. Check out CompleteCollision.com. All right, I mentioned at the top of the show, and it's a big day. houses all around the greater Baton Rouge area are in full swing when it comes to going back to school. Can you feel it, Dave? Do you love it?
It's your life and I'm not gonna live it. The change is coming and it's over.
The randomness of summertime is over.
Over the limit. You know I'm only looking out for you. Get lucky.
School is back in session. East and West Baton Rouge back in yesterday.
I see you get lucky too.
Catholic schools today. Livingston Parish today.
I'll be there when you get me right. That's the beauty of living my life. Hold on, baby, I'm taking you back to school.
No more where are the kids going to be from day to day. No more what campus this week, what campus next week. No more I was supposed to have who, where, by when. No. It's on, baby. The regimented schedules, the homework, the earlier bedtimes, all the things that contribute to the consistency of a parent's life. Let the sanity return today. Here's CBS News. Oh, I'm gonna go. I'll be right back.
I was just messing with you with the time card, but just a reminder. It's important. Well, her first, they do a half day Thursday, and they do a full day Friday.
Oh, okay, so she hasn't started yet?
Yeah, so like she does. So Thursday was the day I was going to take her to the half day, or maybe my wife and I were both going to go.
Are you gonna be able to?
Well, as of right now, no. And it's not trying to figure out a way to get it all covered, but
Yeah.
still.
I'm Alondra Villarreal in the Guarantee Media Traffic Center, brought to you by Shawbills, where you can get a free t-shirt with your purchase of any 4 new tires with the Trend Booster feature.
If anything, huh?
That's kind of like a big thing in this so far.
Yeah, I mean, on the bright side, looking up, Friday's a full day,
Yeah.
so I'll bring her Friday, so that's that. Yeah. It's, I try to be there for all shots and things she like didn't want you to look at her face. She was all kind of like that. The 3D upset didn't reveal as much as I thought it was going to get to see. But it was cool experience. They put you in a room that's like super comfortable and like cool and relaxing. It's very calming. I don't know, maybe it just depends on how the kid like wants if her hands put like next to her face all the time. She's like playing pretty people. Hey, Jeff K. here at WBRP. Get you hold on with Brian in about 2 minutes. All right, stand by.
Today will be a near perfect repeat of yesterday. Temperatures will climb into the low 90s before showers and storms develop.
Oh, I missed my intro. You got Crouere on? Yeah. All right, so now it says Clark and Cassidy for air. It's a shorter version, and we'll post the longer one on demand. It's still 15 seconds too long.
Later this week, the risk for heavy rain and flooding does increase, so make sure you're staying connected to the storm station and you have a way to receive watches and warnings.
Zealand Street starts today? Hell yeah. Zealand Street starts today. Awesome. Hell yeah. What the hell is that? 637 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Time for us to head down I-10 just a little bit. Checking in with the host of Ringside Politics, Jeff Crouere. Jeff, welcome back, man. How are you this morning?
Hey, Brian. Good morning. I'm doing better than President Trump.
Dude, what happened? Like, just all of a sudden, the FBI decides, hey, let's raid this guy's house.
I have never imagined that this would happen. I mean, this is a massive escalation of their investigation, and this is unprecedented. And in my opinion, it's going to backfire on them. I think it's a step way too far. So he's in New York, and they raid his home in Mar-a-Lago like at pre-dawn yesterday, and it was a familiar scenario. We've seen it many times with the FBI. The pre-dawn raids, targeting supporters of President Trump, people that worked in his campaign. But I did not think they'd go as far as actually raiding President Trump's house. And supposedly, it's all about classified documents that they're looking for. That the National Archives had been looking for, that it's not related to January 6th. And this is really, I think, an escalation that is troubling, in my opinion. Very, very, very troubling.
So it coming from the DOJ or from the FBI makes it a completely different beast, because you look at the January 6th Commission, that's all on the Hill, right? This is not. This is something completely different. And I don't know whether or not that should raise more alarms or cause more tune-out.
Right, and I think both. I think both. I mean, when you hear that it's boxes at the National Archive wanted, I think a lot of people are going to be, sort of surprised because we've heard a lot about January 6th. We haven't heard much about this dispute. From what I understand, a president can declassify any documents that he wants. And these were supposedly classified documents. So if President Trump had declassified these documents, I don't know where the crime has been committed.
Well, and that's kind of the flip side of the FBI, though, right? They're going to keep their cards close to the vest all the way up until,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why it's a little different when we see the law enforcement end in what has up till now been a political game. Now, if this continues to be a political game, Jeff, I would argue that let the man go. If you don't want him around in 2024, like the longer he's kept in the game, the longer he's going to be in the game. If there were any chance of him not running in 2024, that chance dwindles every day, every news cycle that passes, and his name remains at the top of it.
Well, I mean, there's an obsession with him that is off the charts, and they talk about him, they target him, I mean, constantly. And you're right. The more they focus on him, the more likely it is that he is going to run. And he's also, I think, getting more support among Republicans. This is sort of galvanizing his supporters, and it's going to be more difficult for anybody to defeat him for the nomination if he wants to run. Now, what they're looking for is if he gets convicted of illegally taking documents, then he's not able to run. So, we'll see what kind of evidence that they have. As people have said, Brian, it better be significant. It better be a smoking gun.
Well, yeah, it better not be something like we found a bunch of fortune cookie fortunes that were in his wallet from 5 years ago that probably should have never left the White House because the archivist didn't release it.
Right. I remember the case of Sandy Berger. It was, I think, years ago, the former NSA director for Bill Clinton, who actually went into the National Archive and took documents illegally.
Yeah.
And to my recollection, he never spent one day in jail. This is someone who actually took documents from the National Archives. This, again, is something that hasn't been done before. So many cases is sort of unprecedented in the targeting of Trump and his close advisors, use of the Logan Act against Michael Flynn, use of the Foreign Records Act against Paul Manafort. This is another case. Again, never been done before. I think a lot of people are going to look at this as a major inappropriate escalation of activities against President Trump.
Yeah, and last weekend, or heading into last weekend, I think my take on keeping him around keeps him popular was kind of echoed at CPAC last weekend. Did you keep up with what was going on out there polling for 2024?
Yes. Yes. He won 3-1 over Ron DeSantis. And, I mean, after you go from President Trump to Ron DeSantis, major drop before anybody else shows up. So if Trump doesn't run, DeSantis is obviously the favorite. And if Trump does run, a lot of people are saying they want Ron DeSantis as his VP choice.
Mm-hmm. You like that idea?
I don't know if that can be done because both of them live in Florida. And there is a constitutional issue here as to whether that's even legal. Some say yes, some say no. So President Trump would have to possibly change his voter registration to New Jersey, his home there.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's going to be done. But it seems to be what the base, Brian, with the grassroots really calling for. They want these two together, and they want Ron DeSantis to be the heir for the Republican Party after President Trump, because he would only have one more term if elected.
Right.
Now, of course, the negative to that is that, he's got strong supporters, but the opposition are just so intensely motivated against him. So it's a double-edged sword. He's got the strong supporters, but he's got the opposition that is just absolutely on fire to stop him from becoming president again.
Talk with Jeff Crouere for another couple minutes. Jeff, before we get you out of here, I got to shift the focus to the Inflation Reduction Act. As I look at this thing, and we're going to have Congressman Troy Carter on later on, so I'll get the pep rally on it later. What are your biggest red flags within this act?
We're at 9.1% inflation, and we're going to be spending hundreds of billions of dollars. I don't think it's a good idea to spend money we don't have during an inflationary period. That was a problem with the American Rescue Plan. 1.9 trillion. I think that really triggered the inflation that we have now. Another issue that I have with it is the tax increases. I don't think this is the right time when we're in a recession to raise taxes on anyone, because I think that will flow to consumers, that will be hitting the American people, the middle class. And finally, I'm terrified of an IRS that will be mobilized with 87,000 more agents to go after middle-class Americans and go after small business owners. And this is an outrageous expansion of the IRS. So those are some of the things that really worry me about it, Brian.
No, okay, I'm glad you hit on the IRS thing, because that's the one that keeps, like, I can't get past that. That's the one that every time I read a story about it, every time I see it come up in a different headline, I'm like, why? And the only possible why is they're not collecting enough taxes from guys like you and me. That's it. That's all I've got.
Bingo.
That's all I've got.
They want more revenue coming into the federal government. This is their way to do it. And basically, it is more than a doubling of the size of the FBI. I mean, they're going to have over 150,000 individuals working there. So it is really a way for revenue to be coming into the federal government in massive numbers. And I think this is the vehicle that they're going to do it through, beefing up the IRS. So I think it's chilling to a lot of Americans, and I don't think this part of the plan is very popular, my friend.
I'm right there with you, and hopefully it'll bubble up to the surface once it makes its way or starts hearing debate in the House side. He is Jeff Crouere, host of Ringside Politics. Always appreciate you, man.
Thank you, Brian.
All right, thank you. We will talk to you next week. In the meanwhile, we got a break. We're long for a break. Traffic, your money now, then right back at it on Talk 107.3. I would like, and this is me being a finicky little shit, I would like to come in on a Tuesday morning and not have fucking stains all over the damn thing. And I don't think this is beer from the Cody Show. I think this is coffee from the Financial Fitness guys. How far over are we going to be? All right. Hey, skip the report. Skip the whole thing. I'll make good on the spot later on. Go from there into the after traffic, play bumper. After bumper, play the 8-minute version. Galen says, no way if I'm Ron DeSantis would I be Trump's VP. The stain would ruin his future political career. Okay, I'm glad you saw it that way too. That is exactly where I was going with that, Galen, is that you point to me, and I know, I say this because with the number of people who absolutely adore everything Donald Trump does, treats him like a deity. I get it. But name for me the relationship with Donald Trump that's ended well. Name for me the time that someone has partnered up with Donald Trump on any level and it's ended in a positive manner and carried on to the next level. if you team up with Trump, he will get the most out of you until he's done with you. Yeah. Segment's getting better. We're getting a little groove here. I've known Jeff for years, but we've never really had a good back and forth. He likes to talk the national stuff a lot more than I do. So, Galen says, Casey says, I agree with you, Galen. So does Eric. Yeah. I'm right there with you, man. Yes. Yes. So, hey, we got an interview with these filmmakers right here, so I'm going to step aside. And I'll be back after news. This actually ought to time out perfectly, dude. Joined right now by Cassidy and Clark Freeman, stars of the horror film Yellow Brick Road. Could not be more excited for this. Welcome aboard, Cassidy, Clark. How y'all doing?
Good. Doing great. How are you?
Doing very well. So Yellow Brick Road, introduced to us about a decade, well, actually exactly a decade ago, now being re-released on Blu-ray and digital as of today, as of August 9th. Tell me all about Yellow Brick Road.
Yellow Brick Road is the first feature film from Cassidy and myself and our buddies Andy Mitten and Jesse Holland, who are the writer-directors. It's about a town in New Hampshire. In the 1940s, the entire town disappears up into the mountains, and cut to 70 years later, and you have these people writing a book and cartographers. They get the coordinates for this road. No one was ever found. Everyone, they found a couple bodies in the woods, whatever. It was a mystery. So this group of explorers goes off into the woods to walk the road and to see what happened to them. And I'll just say that madness ensues. So I don't want to give anything away.
Well, when madness ensues, that's a particular style of horror that I think has gripped a lot more people than the old school jump scares. It's something that's internal. It's something that's in our brains that triggers. There's a certain appeal to that, is there not?
I think the fact that we're putting out a 10-year anniversary version of this movie, absolutely, it sticks with people. I'm sorry, Cass, what did you want to say?
No. I was just going to, I agree. I also think that the reason why it sticks with people, or maybe one of the reasons, is because it feels like it could actually happen. Not only these characters, but also this idea. And especially given the last couple years of all of our lives, we might want to be walking into the woods.
I mean, the flip side of that is the solitude angle. The disassociation with the rest of us around us angle. I mean, there's a lot that plays into it today that probably wasn't even on the table 10 years ago.
That's right. That's very right.
There's no way I don't ask this. So I love my sister very much, but there's no way I'm working with her. What's this relationship like on different projects and whatnot?
Man, I love Clark, and you probably won't work with your sister because you're like, I'd want to kill her after 2 days. I'm here to tell you that feeling doesn't go away. I just push it really deep down, and I focus on the work, is what I try and do. No, Clark and I have always had a really special siblingdom and relationship, and I think the longer I live and the more people I talk to, I realize how special that is. I think I really trust him as a person, but I also really admire him as an artist. And so to get to work with him is not only fun because he's my brother, but also it benefits me because he's so talented.
Clark, as an older brother of a younger sister, it surprises me not at all that she jumped in first. What's your take on it?
Well, I was actually pointing at her on the Zoom.
So okay, fair.
And I also paid her to say all that, so she's contractually obligated
Gotcha.
to say all this stuff. No, we used to. I mean, we grew up. We shared a bathroom growing up, and we used to be. We used to act like what was that show? American Gladiators.
Yeah, we were gladiators.
In the bathroom window. Like, so we've always had this kind of like back and forth, and we've always been in the theater since we were, I started when I was 10, she started when she was 6, so we've been at this for a while, and I wouldn't want anybody else on screen with me or in my corner or anywhere else but her. So the whole thing's a family. I mean, between Andy and Jesse and even the rest of the cast, I mean, we all went to college together. There are very few people in this movie that were not family before they started. And actually, funny trivia bit, Laura Heisler, who plays Liv, this is the first time we met her, was filming Yellow Brick Road, and she ended up going on to marry Andy Mitten, the writer-director, and I think she's been in every single movie of his since. So if they weren't family before Yellow Brick Road, they became family after Yellow Brick Road.
Very cool stuff. Very cool stuff. Hey, speaking of family, I need to step away for a second and ask Cassidy a specific question about a different family. What's next for the Gemstones?
Hey, man, we're filming right now. We're filming in Charleston, South Carolina, and really great stuff. Really great stuff coming down the pike, but I can't tell you, obviously. But there will be more. There will be blood. Yes, there will be. Don't worry.
I need a lot more. Hey, speaking of filming in Charleston, I want to talk about that a little bit because you are on right now in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and we fancy ourselves as Hollywood South a little bit. It's a growing industry here. What's it like packing up and filming in a town like Charleston, South Carolina? Because there's a lot of similarities from there to here.
Is there? I've never been to Baton Rouge, so I don't know that. But, filming in Charleston is really fun. And in one place, Charleston's a real small town. It has a small town feel. It's not a big city. A lot of people are like, "Oh, you're shooting a movie!" Like, it has that sort of feeling. It also has incredible food. If the only negative I could say is that it's like hotter than hell, and real sweaty, which sometimes is difficult when you're filming because all the makeup just pours off of you and you sweat through all your clothes. But nothing some fans can't fix. It's really special to film there, and it feels like we're filming where it actually takes place. So I'm grateful for that.
And that would be where the similarity to Baton Rouge kicks in, is with that heat and humidity. Clark, what about you, man? Do you like taking the show on the road?
I would love to take a show on the road. I mean, I shot 2 years of Narcos Mexico down in Mexico City, and I think it always comes down to the food. The food there is incredible. I mean, sometimes we had security and things following us around, us gringos, us white guys, so we'd be safe. But besides that, I love filming on the road because you get to experience the culture and everything else around work that you wouldn't normally get to at home.
Narcos Mexico I'm glad you brought it up because I was hoping we would get to it. Narcos Mexico, that series from start through all the way through, got very real very fast. What's it like walking that line with actual history?
Oh my God, I was talking about it earlier today. Just being on a show that is about real people, and we're playing real people, real things that happened, and some of the people involved came to set and watched us and checked us out. It heightened the whole thing. It gave us such a responsibility to tell the story of Kiki Camarena and his life and what it meant to the DEA. It makes everything so much more important and so much more special as an actor to be involved in something like that. So I loved it.
It's a different. It's a fun type of storytelling to say the least. All right, back around to Yellow Brick Road, available on Blu-ray and digital DVD as of today. What's new for the DVD? What's new for the Blu-ray that viewers can expect to get? The bonuses, the special features, the behind-the-scenes stuff.
Well, there are two big featurettes on there. One, I believe, is called Practical Blood Effects on an indie budget, which if you need a schooling or some grad school, that would be great to watch if you're trying to make an indie horror movie. And I think the more fun one is called Walking the Yellow Brick Road. It's just cast and crew and everybody involved, and Andy and Jesse and me and Cass, and even a young Robert Eggers before he goes off and has a huge career himself. So yeah, those two are worth getting the Blu-ray just alone, whether you like the movie or not.
You know what? I always look for the Louisiana connections whenever we have actors on, and I saw y'all both had a guest spot on the same episode of NCIS New Orleans. So that was the closest we came to hitting a home state there.
Yep. Yeah, I spent quite a bit of time in New Orleans.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Well, then you know full well the heat and humidity and all that comes with it, and the good food as well. All right, Clark and Cassidy Freeman, stars of the horror film Yellow Brick Road, which is out on Blu-ray and digital DVD as of today. I can't tell you how much I appreciate a couple minutes of your time this morning.
No problem. Thank you.
Thanks.
And thank you so much.
Yes. All right, YouTube. Eric says, you could dislike Trump, but the man didn't have a need to be in this. And if I were a billionaire, I wouldn't be near politics. I guess anyone wanting that job is crazy. The need. See, I don't want to do this because I'm going to be bad mouthing him. But the need is in the vanity. The need is in the ego. Thank you, Byron. I appreciate that, man. I try to shift gears from time to time. Galen says, to be clear, I supported Trump and will again if necessary. I just want better leadership and or I think you mean sane or some sensible policies. Yeah, my hang-ups with Trump aren't policy-based, they're tactic-based. I like a lot of what he did. I don't like how he did it. I don't think he makes us better people. No, he didn't. He didn't say that. You didn't have that conversation. You're a liar. You're a lying liar. I hate that my mind works like that. Jeez. Boy, that's right, KC. Yep. The drive to school is going to be dry, but what about the drive home from school with today's forecast? Is WBRZ meteorologist Marissa Nuzzo. Mm-hmm. .706 Talk 107.3 FM. WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Hour 2 coming your way right now. Kate, I just looked up and realized I hadn't flipped the time back over, so it's still 9:06 p.m. in Tokyo. I gotta fix that. Hey, thanks again to Clark and Cassidy Freeman. Fun interview right there. Yellow Brick Road is if you're into horror, is that internal horror. It's not the jump scare horror. It's a different feel altogether. And the 10th anniversary DVD and Blu-ray are out today. Also, thanks to Jeff Crouere for hopping on board. Got a busy hour this hour as well. We're trying to take a deeper dive into the Inflation Reduction Act. And when I talked with Jeff Crouere yesterday, that's where we were planned on going for the entire interview, like taking a deeper dive into each and every, as many aspects of it as we could. But the FBI raid on Mar-a-Lago changed that greatly, which, by the way, if you're not watching us on YouTube, hop on. It's Mornings with Brian Haldane on YouTube. Great conversation going on right there about not just with the raid, but about the leadership within the Republican Party as well. So, Mornings with Brian Haldane, go ahead and subscribe while you're there. But getting back to it, Nathan Brand from the RNC going to join us in our next segment to chat a little bit about the Inflation Reduction Act. Baton Rouge Police Chief Murphy Paul later on this hour. My apologies to everyone out in Ascension Parish. I had it written down on my sheet who was going back to school today, because East Baton Rouge and West Baton Rouge were yesterday, and I had Ascension, Livingston, and Catholic schools in Baton Rouge all written down. And somehow I just blew right past it. So, Ascension, welcome back. Welcome back to the routine. Welcome back to the homework and the practices and the earlier bedtimes and the regimented beauty that is the school year. Sorry for those that have missed out. I have a different take on getting the summer over with and getting back to the school year. I absolutely love the fact that we know where we're going to be and when. Don't care how busy it gets. I like routine. Creature of habit. So, which, along with that, school zones in Ascension Parish this morning as well. Hey, we're going to get you to top stories and trending here in just a second. Top stories and trending presented by St. James Place. Check them out online at stjamesplace.org, stjamesplace.org. As you're looking at opening up that next chapter of your life, as you're looking at moving into the retirement years, or if you're moving your parents into their retirement years, you want to explore all the possibilities. When you're opening up that chapter of your life, you want to make sure happiness is a priority and a more fulfilling lifestyle is a priority. All of these things are possible at St. James Place. All these things can be fulfilled at St. James Place. Do not think in terms of nursing home. Not a nursing home. They have nursing facilities, but it's an all-inclusive retirement community. You decide what feels right as you move into St. James Place. Choose to nourish your mind and body with everything from massages to fitness to delicious mouth-watering entrees from the restaurants. And oh, by the way, I've experienced them. The mouth-watering entrees, not the massages and the fitness. They do a heck of a job over there at St. James Place. Learn more online at stjamesplace.org, stjamesplace.org, or give them a call. Start the conversation, 215-4500. St. James Place. Live life well. Time for top stories and trending. Let's go. Casey says on the YouTube that Central doesn't start till Thursday. All right. Well, then we'll revisit this for Central on Thursday. Go Wildcats. David Shinover's time as a seminarian, pastor, husband, and so-called model prisoner apparently outweighed his status as a confessed double murderer when he was granted parole on Monday. That's a nicely written sentence there, Bess Casterly. I'm getting this from our news partners over at WBRC. Shinover, now 64 years old, was convicted of and confessed to the grisly murders of Evelyn McIntyre and Michael Brown more than 40 years ago in Baton Rouge. He pleaded guilty. He got a life sentence. That life sentence was supposed to not include the possibility of parole. Well, a 2021 parole board decision got his life sentence commuted to 99 years, which immediately opened up the chance of parole. The board voted 2-1 to grant his early release, with Pearl Wise and Cheryl Ranatza in favor and Bonnie Jackson against. It's not what the victims' families wanted, but they're now trying to move on from a new pain decades after the 1979 killings. Shinover will be released from custody with the stipulation that he does not return to Louisiana or Texas. He must also attend counseling and perform 20 hours of community service every month. A mother was arrested last week after her 2-year-old child died from a fentanyl overdose. She's been in jail for almost a week because her bond was put on hold. Hearing was set for Monday morning to decide whether or not she would stay in jail until her multiple criminal cases can proceed. 2-year-old Mitchell Robinson III died in June after overdosing on fentanyl that he found inside his home on DeNova Street. It was the toddler's third overdose of the year. It was the toddler's third overdose of the year. It was the toddler's third overdose of the year. 28-year-old Whitney Yard, his mother, was arrested last week, booked for negligent homicide. Her bond was set for $50,000. There was supposed to be a bond hearing yesterday. It was delayed. It'll be this morning. The hold on her bond will remain in place until then. It was the toddler's third overdose this year. Speaking of toddlers, a man spent weeks beating his 2-year-old son with a belt and did nothing to address an apparent head injury in the days leading up to the toddler's death, according to police. Baton Rouge Police Department said 25-year-old Anderson King was arrested on Monday on a charge of second-degree cruelty to juveniles after his son Kylan died in the hospital. Police said King, who lived at the Oyo Hotel along Airline Highway, admitted to hospital staff that he repeatedly whipped the toddler with a leather belt because the child kept urinating on himself. King said the beatings happened over the past couple weeks. The day of his son's death, King admitted he struck the child all over his body roughly a dozen times, only stopped after the belt wrapped around his son's neck. King said his son later fell unconscious. He left the boy at the hotel to find the child's mother instead of calling 911. He left the victim in the hotel room unresponsive. Once they returned, the parents brought the 2-year-old to a hospital where he later died. Police noted the child was severely beaten, several old and fresh injuries all over his body. A preliminary autopsy report from the coroner said the boy died from multiple blunt force injuries. The coroner has ruled this death a homicide. Officials are attempting to locate an SUV allegedly involved in a fatal hit and run that killed a bicyclist on I-12 eastbound on July 25th. Crime Stoppers believes the suspect's vehicle is a dark-colored 1999, somewhere between 99 and 2006 Chevy Tahoe or Suburban with significant damage to the passenger side headlight. The vehicle was reportedly last seen exiting the interstate onto O'Neill Lane. Anyone with information is asked to call Crime Stoppers at 344-STOP. Man died after shots were fired near his home late Sunday night. We had the story about the shots fired yesterday. Baton Rouge Police Department said 52-year-old Darnell Martin was shot on North 39th Street, just north of Fairfields Avenue, shortly before midnight. Martin was taken to a hospital where he later died. No other details related to the shooting were immediately available. Those are your top stories. Here's a look at what's trending this morning. Olivia Newton-John passed away. Actress Olivia Newton-John dies at the age of 73 after a prolonged battle with breast cancer. Beloved actress and singer Olivia Newton-John died Monday morning. This was a 3 decades-long battle with cancer, her husband said. Newton-John played opposite John Travolta in the 1978 hit film Grease. Also had a number of hit records as well. Went to number 1 for, I think, 13 weeks with Physical back in 1980, 81. Olivia Newton-John was 73 years old. Those are your top stories in trending. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, let's talk a little bit about the Inflation Reduction Act. Nathan Brand joins us next. It was the toddler's 3rd overdose. DCFS ending lives. Ooh. Do what? Yeah. Oh, I had another full minute there. I thought I was short on time. Morning, Chief. How are you, man? You good? I didn't see you had the cell phone on hand. Going all right. How are you? I didn't see it.
You been good? I've been all right, brother. Good seeing you. All right, man.
He's so stupid.
Yeah, Mary and I went to Dufrock Elementary.
Oh, right up the road.
Oh my gosh, there was kids just encouraging them, asking them about their first day.
Yeah. Oh, I know. 718 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Time to broaden out and get back on a national scale real quick. Want to talk about the Inflation Reduction Act, and we are joined right now by the RNC's Deputy Communications Director, Nathan Brand. Nathan, welcome to the show. How are you, man?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Brian.
No, glad to have you on. Glad to be talking about this because we want to cover this from as many angles as we possibly can. So let's dive right in. One of two senators, well, both of the Louisiana senators voted against the Inflation Reduction Act. We had Senator Bill Cassidy on heading into the weekend before the vote, saying exactly why he was going to vote the way he did. Cassidy's takeaway is he doesn't think this thing is going to reduce inflation at all. I would assume you would echo those sentiments.
Yeah, your senator is spot on. I think one thing that we need to keep in mind is Democrats play these games with definitions way too often. They call this thing the Inflation Reduction Act. It has nothing to do with reducing inflation. It actually might make it worse. They said the same thing with the recession. They said that the recession is no longer defined as 2 quarters of negative GDP growth. They want to redefine all these different words in the English language, and they end up just abusing the dictionary as a result. But people aren't buying it. What this is going to do is it's going to raise taxes, it's going to increase spending, and ultimately hurt folks at a time when people need more money in their pockets. We're heading into a recession, and we're ultimately heading into a midterm where we can call these people into account and ultimately kick them out of office.
The Joint Committee on Taxation says Americans earning less than $200,000 per year will see taxes rise by $16.7 billion in 2023. Taxpayers earning between $200,000 and $500,000 will pay $14.1 billion more. I kind of remember being promised that if I wasn't part of the 1%, I wouldn't see an increase in taxes. First of all, how accurate are the numbers from the Joint Committee on Taxation? And secondly, have you ever seen something like this play in a midterm year?
Yeah, I don't know what their political calculation is, but raising taxes a couple of months before the election during a recession is not the brightest idea I've seen yet. So we are thrilled in that sense because they are kind of shooting themselves in the foot here as far as bad campaign messaging. But keep this in mind, they voted for $1.9 trillion in reckless spending this time last year, which sent this inflation crisis we're seeing right now off. Like that's where all of this started. So no, they are all set on raising taxes on all of us. Anyone making above about $20,000 is going to see their taxes go up. But the other thing that's really terrifying about this bill they passed through the Senate over the weekend is it also pumps $80 billion into the IRS, the tax collection agency. They want to audit folks. They claim to want to audit the 1%, the billionaires, those folks. But your listeners know, I know, everybody gets audited more than those 1%ers do. It's not about targeting them. It's about targeting average Americans with extra audits, extra scrutiny from the IRS. If you're a grandma with a lemonade stand, they're coming for you because that's what this bill does. And I think folks should be alarmed. Hopefully we can kill it in the House, but if not, we've got to kick all these folks out in November.
So the IRS thing caught my eye as well. And it more than doubles the size of the IRS. And yeah, if your intent is to audit the 1%, then audit the 1%. You don't need volume to do that.
Yeah, no, you don't. You truly don't. And they think that they can get away with adding more folks. So this is Democrats' playbook through and through. When they are in doubt, let's just raise taxes. Let's increase the size of government. One of the craziest comparisons that was made over the weekend was the good folks at the Washington Free Beacon reported that with this influx of cash to the IRS will now be bigger than, get this, the Pentagon, the State Department, the FBI, and Border Patrol combined. There are now going to be more people in the biggest IRS ever than we have on our southern border, than we have at our State Department, than we have currently working at the Pentagon in Virginia. It is absolutely insane what they're trying to do with this, and it's not just coming for the wealthy. It's coming for you and me. There was a really kind of scary interview over the weekend. Senator Cardin from Democrat from the Northeast, he said that, if you just comply, if you just go along with all this, you shouldn't have to worry. Yeah, they say that now. Next thing you know, they're going to be breathing down your necks for all sorts of other reasons. So, no, this should alarm folks probably more than the tax increases because they're coming for your tax returns.
In the wake of the vote, everybody walking out of the Senate who voted in favor of this was touting the climate change concerns and movement on that front, which is fine if you want to argue that on a different day. That's not what they were supposed to be doing on this one. But I've read a couple different articles about how even on that front, it doesn't look like it's going to get anything done.
No, it's a Band-Aid to a problem they think is existential. It's going to be the biggest thing, the top concern, the biggest national security concern. All these things, they were like, we're going to tackle climate change. What's funny, though, is they realize Americans that's not the top priority right now. The top priority is filling their gas tanks, paying for food, tackling inflation, not raising taxes. Those are the priorities of Americans right now. So when they build this bill, they came out and said, look, we're going to call it the Inflation Reduction Act. No one bought it. Now they're all saying, we're going to tout our climate and energy initiatives and all that kind of stuff. Well, here's the sneaky thing about all of this. And bottom line, in all these provisions they've added in here about clean climate, obviously they're going to help bankroll their green energy folks who are bankrolling their campaigns. But the other thing, too, is they're increasing taxes on American energy producers. What are we short on right now? American energy. We need more energy. Our utility bills are through the roof. And when the winter rolls around and folks are paying more to heat their homes, we're going to be paying a fortune this year. So between gas prices and energy prices, these Democrats do not seem to care. All they've got on their mind is this green energy crusade and these electric vehicles that most folks can't afford. That's where they're headed right now. They don't seem to care that folks are struggling right now to pay the bills. But I think we really got one option in November is vote Democrats out.
Okay, so, but along with that, we can't just complain about a problem. We have to offer solutions. Since you are with the RNC, I've got to ask, do we pick apart what was wrong and replace it with what could be right heading into the fall? How do we do that, and how do we get that on as a unified message?
Yeah, I think one thing that Republicans nearly across the board agree on is that we need American energy. It starts with unleashing natural gas in our oil industry because that's where folks are feeling the pain the most, at the gas pump. Mm-hmm. They need to have the ability to pay for gas at a reasonable rate, well below these historic highs we're seeing under Joe Biden. Kind of thinking back to the Trump years, gas was never this high. So, no, it would be great to get back to a point where folks can afford to get from work or get to school or wherever it might be. That's step one. Next, you got to open up a number of these pipelines. Let's make energy transportation reasonable. Republicans have been very unified on this, whether it's Keystone or any number of pipelines across the country, is open them up. Let's get to work. Let's get folks, those create jobs along the way. That's where the solution is. And these are, other thing too, these are more efficient. These are the biggest sources of energy. Democrats want to pump into all these green things, and that's it. It needs to be above all strategy. Let's make things work for the American people. And then finally, let's get our refineries rolling. Let's get investment into those bottlenecks in the system. Democrats continue to want to shut these places down, which ultimately raises costs for everybody. So no, let's export American energy rather than import it from everywhere across the globe. And that's where this starts. That's where Republicans are offering solutions for November.
Nathan Brand, RNC Deputy Communications Director. Hey, Nathan, before I get you out of here, your Twitter bio says that you're a huge Seahawks fan. I've got to ask, how does it feel walking into a season with Geno Smith at the helm?
That is a tough question. I'm secretly rooting for Drew Lock. I think the guy's a hoot. But I don't know who's starting week one, but we've got a lot of questions for the Seahawks season after years and years of Russell Wilson.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough rebuild. Wilson's one of my favorites, and now that he's over in Denver, it's going to be a different sort of translation. In the meanwhile, at the very least, since you're on here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana right now, enjoy Al Woods and Jamal Adams on the defensive side of the football, courtesy of LSU. You're welcome on that front, and we will talk to you soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. He is Nathan Brand, RNC Deputy Communications Director. Now, don't think this is going to be all one-sided. We've heard from the RNC. We've heard from radio host Jeff Crouere. In our next hour, Congressman Troy Carter is going to join us. I've no doubt you're going to hear more glowing review of the Inflation Reduction Act from Congressman Carter's standpoint versus where the RNC is at on that. We try to present different points of view on a regular basis. We try to make sure that no one side is left to the wayside. We've got 2 minutes before we hit news at the bottom of the hour. After our news break, Baton Rouge Police Chief Murphy Paul is in studio. We've got a lot of ground to cover with the Chief, and I'm looking forward to that thoroughly. But before we get you to news, I got to remind you, DropBiscuitStudios.com. DropBiscuitStudios.com is our home for Southern storytellers telling Southern stories. Pops, the Louis Armstrong story, is available on demand at DropBiscuitStudios.com. Also, Michelle Southern's Only in Louisiana podcast, if you've not yet checked it out. I've had Michelle on the show a number of times to talk about it. It's a fantastic, fantastic podcast telling Louisiana stories. My podcast, Cool Story Bro, it's available there as well. And if you have not yet experienced scone and tea, Cade, how would you describe scone and tea? If you could put it in, it doesn't have to be one word. But one sentence, how would you describe scone and tea?
Perfect for, not fit for radio, perfect for YouTube.
Okay, that's about right. That's about right. They are what the odd couple could only dream of being. It is a gloriousness to that pairing. And yes, definitely not fit for radio. So make sure if you're listening to that, the AirPods are in and or the kids are not around. All right, we're going to check our CBS News. We'll have the latest from CBS, obviously talking about the FBI raid on Mar-a-Lago. We'll check in with our own local news, traffic, and weather after that. You heard the forecast from Marissa a little while ago. Probably some showers on the way home from school today. If you're not already at school this morning, you know the drive's looking good as far as the weather is concerned, but 50-50 shot of rain throughout the afternoon for your drive home from your first day of school. Let's go ahead and get you to CBS News here on Talk 107.3 FM. Hey, don't forget, if you miss anything at all, it's available on demand at talk1073.com once the show is over. Right now, here is CBS News. Do what? Yeah. There's a certain point where I was really hoping he'd be able to riff about football a little more. I should have known, though. You know, Pacific Northwest. No. In the SEC, it just means more. Oh, so am I. Don't know. License plate read. Okay. So let's make sure we get to that then. Okay. All right. Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I got a couple people on YouTube want me to ask you about the mother in that fentanyl overdose case. The kid was taken to the hospital on 3 different occasions for overdoses. Died on the 3rd one. I want to know what. Oh, hang on one second. Time to get a look at today's forecast. Time to get a look at today. Oh, it's not me. Oh, okay. Sorry. Time to get a look at today's forecast. Here is WBRZ meteorologist Marissa Nuzzo. So, yeah. Toddler, Odie. .738 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Time to welcome into the studio, as we like to do as often as we can, Baton Rouge Police Chief Murphy Paul. Chief Paul, good morning, sir. Welcome back, man.
Good morning. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing very well. Hey, before we dive into the meat of what's going on out there, I've got to start with my colleague from down the hall, Richard Condon, comes down and he mentions to you about a video he saw from yesterday. Can we start with where we're at school with the return to school? Because you had a bit of a moment.
It was, yesterday the mayor and I, the superintendent, we went over to Dufrock Elementary School right over there on 19th and just greeted our youth as they were leaving school, their first day of school, encouraging them. And it was just a beautiful experience to see the youth and the excitement of our kids and just getting them excited about this school year. So it was a very rewarding experience.
As I said, mine are back in as of today. As a parent, do you appreciate the summertime schedule more or the school schedule more?
I think the school.
Thank you. No more needing to be said. That's
I have a
exactly
lot of
right.
respect for our teachers, and I know our superintendent is working really hard along with the teachers to make this an exciting but a safe school year. A lot of conversation with my team, with Superintendent Narcisse's team and his staff, to make sure that our students have a safe school year. A lot of coordination with the sheriff's office, myself, and those public safety professionals in the school board as well.
No, absolutely, and that it is going to remain forefront for some time, or in the forefront of our minds for some time. Hey, let's get down to a little bit of business. We had another drag racing incident over the weekend, not within the city limits, but that does not exclude y'all from it.
No.
What's the latest there?
Well, we're working with the sheriff. We did receive information on that, and we assisted in that area. we actually have an ordinance that's going to be on the books tomorrow before the city council, thanks to the leadership of our Councilman Rowdy Gode, who's increasing the fines for those that are involved in drag racing, suspending their driver's license, arrest up to 90 days, taking away their inability to drive, because we're seeing that the fines itself isn't working. Raising those fines, we think, will help, but also making it illegal for those who are organizing these events using social media. So that is something that we're going to be supporting tomorrow. I'll be at the city council supporting that. Look, this is becoming a serious public safety issue.
Very much.
We are dedicating a lot of resources to these events. It is not a game. There's nothing fun about it. But what we're seeing is social media is becoming a catalyst of some of these activities.
Yeah, again, speaking as a parent, my daughter was going out somewhere the other night, and she said they went by Taco Bell in college, and instantly my mind went back to the Garth Brooks concert night, and as a parent, that's where my mind goes. It's like, okay, are you going to get in, get out of there as soon as you can? We shouldn't be feeling that way.
Well, look, we take this seriously. We just made an arrest.
Yeah, no, I know.
From the Garth Brooks incident. We just made an arrest, and we're going to continue investigating. Our investigative efforts have not stopped. Our team is doing a pretty good job of identifying those individuals and building probable cause against them, and we're going to continue to do it until they get the message.
Speaking of making arrests, you've got some numbers for us. You got some stats for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Our police officers are out there. This whole issue that we're not enforcing laws. We're not. That is just not true. We're making more arrests. We're arresting more people today than we arrested last year. Last year, we arrested more individuals for felonies than the prior year. As of to date, as of last week, we've arrested over 2,645 felons. Last year, for the whole year, we had 3,400. And we've already arrested more than 2,645 people for felony arrests and more than 206 juveniles. We've made more than 43 arrests for homicides. So our police officers are out there making arrests. I think if you look at our social media, if you look at the information from our press releases, we are putting a lot of individuals in jail. Just this year alone, we've already seized more than 1,000 guns, 1,074 guns. We've seized 1,600 last year. So we're at pace to seize more weapons. And this is an example where you can't just police your way and arrest your way out of these problems. Crime is a socio-economic issue.
Yeah, no, it is. But the punishment end of it is a legit end of it. Let's talk about the force itself. Recruiting efforts, recent pay raise. That's a good thing.
Yeah, we think, hey, that's another thing. That's going before the city council tomorrow. We're excited about that. We're prayerful that our city council is going to support those efforts. Really want to thank our mayor, finance, and the team over there in the mayor's office for putting together a pay raise. It's going to be the highest pay raise when you look at the history of Baton Rouge Police Department. That's going to put us up there with our counterparts at state police. And we're excited about it. Not just that, but 5% for all of our other employees as well. We believe that that's going to help with our recruiting efforts. And we're excited about it. We started our academy class with 29. We lost 9. So we're down to 20 that's left. So keep lifting them up in prayer that they can get through the process. It is a very difficult process. We got 6 started last week from other police agencies who've come over.
Excellent.
Yeah, they started last week. So lift those 6 officers up in prayers. And we have 4 officers who want to come back, who left the department. Yeah, one, I believe we have 2 started. And 2 going through the process. So lift them up as well. Public servants coming back to serve this community.
From this chair, it's hard not to hear that and not do the side-by-side comparisons with other cities. And this is something. This is the recruitment process. That office being down a number of officers is a problem. Hell, right down the road, New Orleans is down 700 officers. I know you can't do a side-by-side comparison.
No,
it's not apples to apples.
If you look at agencies around us, from state police, sheriff's office, we can go on. I mean, we've been fortunate to have academy classes back to back. We have around 90 vacancies right now. we average 50 vacancies a year for the past decade.
Right.
So when you look at this next academy class that we've already started recruiting efforts, and we've said we're going to have more boots on the ground by next year. So those are things we're excited about. Recruiting has been a challenge nationally for law enforcement, but our numbers are trending in a positive direction. We believe we're going to have one of the lowest turnover ratios that we've had over the last couple of years, and those are wins. And I really think that this new pay raise is going to help with that as well.
Got Baton Rouge Police Chief Murphy Paul in studio. Chief, I got to ask you a question that a listener submitted to me. He actually submitted a while ago. I'm glad I remembered this one. This is somebody who witnessed a couple hit and runs, tried to take some pictures of the old temp tag to get pics to submit to the P3 app through Crime Stoppers or submit directly to y'all. The listener wants to know: do y'all ever have random license plate checks like they do inspection stickers or insurance, or does this go through the license plate readers? And if so, how does that process unfold?
Yeah, both. So we do have license plate readers that are strategically placed throughout the city. We also have them on units. I can tell you those license plate readers we call ALPRs, automatic license plate readers, that are ran through our real-time crime center. We make a lot of arrests and seizures, and it's a good investigative tool that we've used with some of our ARP dollars and also some of the dollars downtown through our foundation. We're continuing to purchase this technology, so we are using it. Our officers also obviously run plates as well while they're out there patrolling. So yes, we are using that, and there's been a lot of seizures, a lot of arrests, a lot of stolen cars that we've been able to make arrests in from those automatic license plate readers and checked by our police officers.
Got about 2 minutes left with Baton Rouge Police Chief Murphy Paul. Chief Paul, I got to reserve these last 2 minutes because the last few times you've been on here, we've been making it a point to acknowledge the great work that your officers do out there. And honestly, it's my favorite part of the segment. So you got anybody needing a shout out today?
No, absolutely. We always hear sometimes the headlines, we forget the great work. I am proud of the work of the Baton Rouge police officers. I think that if you look at where we are as an agency, we are leading law enforcement, not only in the state, but in the country. And great work like Officer Colin Cox. He actually responded to an overdose, and he administered Narcan. We actually issued Narcan to our officers now. We finished the training, and he saved a life. You don't hear about that. But we're out there because we understand addiction is something that's a challenge in our community. Or one of our uniformed patrol officers over there on Spain Street, we had a subject that fled. Our K-9 officer came out, was deployed, and he was able to track that suspect for 5 blocks, and we were able to make an apprehension.
Wow.
Without anyone being hurt. Also, we were called by the U.S. Marshal Services, and our K-9 was deployed. He was in a house, in a residence, and when he learned that our K-9 was there, he voluntarily gave up and came
That's
out.
the right move.
Yes.
Oh, by the way,
Yes.
when they release the dog, that's the time to give up.
A lot of work for our K-9 unit. And look, we had requested assistance. We actually had our units were involved. We had 4 escapees from Mississippi, a Mississippi prison, 4 escapees. Our uniform patrol officers go out there. They were able to conduct a traffic stop and take those prisoners into custody from Mississippi without incident. And there's stories like that every single day of Baton Rouge police officers out there doing the right thing, upholding those values of loyalty, duty, honor, respect, selfless service, integrity, and courage. And I'm excited, and I hope and pray that they're going to be rewarded this Wednesday with this new raise. That's 7%. As you well know, they just received the 3%. Prior to that, another 3%. Look, just showing our police officers that we respect them, we love them, and we support them. And thank you for serving our community.
He is Baton Rouge Police Chief Murphy Paul, and yes, that will be on the Metro Council's agenda for tomorrow night. We'll have a council member on at 7:15 tomorrow morning. Don't know which one yet; they haven't confirmed, but we'll definitely be addressing that and a number of other different issues involving the council. In the meanwhile, Chief Paul, I always appreciate the time, man. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We got to take a quick break. We'll check your money now. We'll check traffic. After the break, we step outside of East Baton Rouge Parish every single day for headlines from our surrounding parishes and the outside in coming up next. All right.
The murder rate is 63.
63? Yes. Okay. All right. Yeah, it's been the non-fatal shootings these last couple weeks, man. Have they? All right. Yeah, it just, hey, for some reason we seem to get hit in waves. Oh, no shit. Yeah. I had that in Top Stories and Trending. Yeah. It was, hang on. I throw the paper away when I'm done with it to keep it clean. Well, that one. Yeah, we made it arrested. Oh, yes. That's the one that the listeners were asking about. No, I guess I didn't have it in that one in today's. Yeah, but it's yeah. At some point, I don't know if this would even fall under your office or not, but at some point, I want to have an OYO hotel conversation about like come to Louisiana. Yeah, I just thought about it. Right, which is of the 500 plus calls y'all have gotten on OYO Hotel, not many of them involve kids, but here we are.
So, I don't know what relation other than him staying there. That the hotel had to do that.
It is, and I don't know that
Job is to protect and nurture.
it's probably a question for Hiller's office more than yours.
Well, we respond when we get the calls. If you want to report it, I can report calls for sure.
Well, but if it were come to something like, because the question is, why don't you shut the place down? Oh, that would be Hiller's.
And look, Hitler has done that. In fact, we've had conversations with the owners.
Yeah.
At the mayor's office.
Really?
Absolutely. Yeah, we've had. I know one of the takeaways was increased extra duty. Extra duty assignment came out of that. I got to check on that. That's good. I haven't got an update because I hadn't heard much about it. But we actually had police officers that were working. Yeah, but we met with the hotel owners and talked about some things they can do in order to reduce the cost of service. But I have not done the follow-up on that to see if it made a difference.
Right.
But I'll do that.
All right.
Maybe I can talk about that next time.
Sure, absolutely. We'd love to. Thank you, Chief.
See y'all later.
Later on. Okay, for those of y'all that asked about the mom, I don't think you got definitive information for an answer, so my apologies there. Glock owner says, it pains me to see how NOPD is really a shell of what it used to be. Worked there in the late 90s, seeing the decline in the number of officers, and the morale with the officers who were there is unreal. So the question, the chief didn't want it. So he had put a call in while we were in there, and just didn't get an answer in real time as to whether or not that was BRPD's arrest or East Baton Rouge Sheriff's arrest. So I'll get follow up from him later. I'll get follow up from Gino later on today. But I asked him about it during the break leading in, and if you saw right before we were coming back in from break, he had picked up his phone and put in a phone call. So I kind of had him hop off the phone to do the segment. I'll get follow up though. $7:55, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. I ask a question, and I want your answer on our YouTube channel, Mornings with Brian Haldane on YouTube. We go live there every morning. So the chief says 29 folks started the basic training academy for the police force. They lost 9. Do you look at that as a win or a loss? And here's where I'm going with this. It's not a rubber stamp, right? You do have certain requirements you have to meet. Is it a little more reassuring to know that, like, not everybody makes the cut? Yes, we need more officers, absolutely. But maybe there's room for saying, you know, we want to make sure that you can handle the gig.
Should they make it more, if you're trying to recruit and attract officers to be part of the force, make it like signing day?
Oh, I think I like where this is going.
Because
well, like have like a sheriff's hat, an LSP hat, and a BRPD hat sitting right there.
Yeah. And you don't have to cap off a certain number because you're limited on scholarships and whatnot. I mean,
right.
You're trying to fill as many spots as you can.
So, I like it.
Yeah. If
I like
your number's
it.
50 or number's 90, whatever it is.
I like it. We can go that route. You still have to meet the requirements, but I don't know. I take more away from the idea of, not everybody's going to make the cut. This isn't police camp. Not everybody gets to play. All right. That'll be up on demand at talk1073.com after the show. In the meanwhile, we step outside of East Baton Rouge Parish every day for a segment we call The Outside In. Starting off at St. Tammany Parish, deputies said they have 2 suspects in custody after an armed... starting off at Livingston Parish. Deputies said they have 2 suspects in custody after an armed robbery of a Denham Springs store Monday afternoon. Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office said the Dollar General along Arnold Road was robbed at gunpoint around 2 p.m. Deputies said no one was injured. Armed robbery of the Dollar General? Just aim higher. You're not exactly Ocean's 11 if you're knocking over a Dollar General. Quote, while our investigation continues, we do have enough evidence at this hour to tie these 2 suspects to what we now believe is an attempted armed robbery. This investigation has also led us to evidence that one of these individuals may also be responsible for another crime in our parish, Sheriff Jason Ard said in a statement. Now we head to St. Tammany Parish. A Slidell man was arrested by the Attorney General's office for producing and possessing pornography of children younger than 13. According to AG Jeff Landry, 25-year-old Sean Dennis of Slidell was charged with 39 counts of possession of pornography involving juveniles under the age of 13, 10 counts of producing pornography involving juveniles, possessing for 1, producing is the 10-count one. In a statement, Landry asked the public for help in the ongoing investigation. He says, I encourage anyone with information regarding Mr. Dennis to call my cybercrime unit, toll-free at 800-256-4506. They're continuing to work on the case and looking to build more in that case against him. We head west to St. Martin Parish. A woman and her son were shot and wounded Monday night near the area of Corville Road and Ducey Road in Breaux Bridge. Police Chief Raleigh Cantu said the shooting happened during an argument between the woman and several male juveniles. Cantu said at a certain point, one juvenile pulled out a weapon, began firing multiple rounds, striking both victims in the leg. She said the mother and son were transported to a local hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. A person of interest was detained and is being questioned. Closing out in New Orleans, we got done talking about all their problems with their law enforcement. Well, they've got a new branch of city government that's been in the works for years. The goal is not only preserve New Orleans' nightlife and culture, but to elevate them. Howie Kaplan has been named, the owner of the Howland Wolf in the Warehouse District, is the head of the city's newly created office of the nighttime economy. Here comes CBS News. All right, first of all, Jared, welcome aboard, sir. Glad to have you here. I hope you enjoy what you are consuming, and feel free to comment away. Get involved in the conversation. Tiffany says EBR is so behind in school safety. So if you didn't see Robert McGarner on the show a couple weeks ago from Crime Stoppers, Robert is the head of security for EBR schools and basically laid out a nightmare scenario as to what they're facing. You've got school buildings that have been built over the course of the last century. Every one of them with basically a different blueprint. Every one of them with a different layout. He says the worst of the worst is Liberty Magnet High. You can't protect it. It's damn near impossible to protect it. Now, the older school buildings are difficult because they don't have the buzz-in technology at the front, but they do have the possibility for a single point of entry. So there's that. But yeah, we're way, way behind. Storm Warning says, just glad they're cracking down on drag racers. Same, dude, same. I'll like, the level to which this thing pisses me off cannot be quantified. On Florida Boulevard at Little John, there's the Viet Garden restaurant and a family thrift center. There used to be a bank in that shopping center. There's also like an office furniture store in this dilapidated strip shopping center. There's an office furniture shopping store where you will never, and I mean never, see someone in the parking lot in the daytime. You drive by there at night, and the parking lot fills up quickly. Now, I'm back home and in bed because I'm old and boring before the action really gets cranked up. But you drive by on a Thursday, Friday, or Saturday night, and you will see a number of cars that are just lining up in a parking lot that is empty during business hours. And then by the time I get home, if I step back outside my house, I can hear it. I can hear all of it. I can hear the revving of the engines, the souped-up motors. I can hear the gunshots. And the gunshots are a regular occurrence with these things. So it's not about like, oh, you kids, yeah, with you doing donuts in the parking lot. It's not about that. It's about what it escalates to when they go all fast and furious on us. Super B Finder says, as we are $30 trillion in debt, the RNC guy says that $1.9 trillion in spending is reckless. A billion here, a billion there, a trillion here, a trillion there. Eventually, it turns into real money. I think the bigger point there was, at least if I can extrapolate from it, the bigger point there wasn't about the amount of spending. It's the idea of spending your way out of a problem that was started by spending. If the government paves the way with the blank checks, or in this case, $1.9 billion in checks, no, it's a bigger number than that. But if the government paves the way in that regard, the problem will be exacerbated eventually. Mr. 45 says, when I went through NOPD's academy in 97, we started with 40 and finished with 25 at the end of the 5-month academy. Bro. When did my cousin go through NOPD's academy? He ended up moving over to Jefferson Parish eventually, but I'm trying to remember when Chris went through. Anyway. I think the Dollar General's robber's fate was sealed when the cops found rat DNA on him. How about it, Cade? We going to do a rat family around here? Like, yeah. No, I meant like the rat family, like, you know. Get that t-shirt, Cade! Get that t-shirt! I can print that, darn. But I'm going to keep talking for another 45 seconds. Yeah, Mucinex. Yes. So the first ride into school was nice and dry. What about the first ride home from school? Here is WBRZ meteorologist Marissa Nuzzo. Mm-hmm. Right. You would receive watches and warnings. There are a billion birthdays today. Did you know that? A billion people were born today. Since the beginning of time? Maybe. A billion's a large number. 806 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Hour 3 coming your way right now. Busy hour this hour. State Treasurer John Schroder going to join us in our next segment. And Congressman Troy Carter slated to join us for D.C. Current at 8:35. You've heard the arguments against the Inflation Reduction Act. Congressman Carter will likely spell a little bit different of a take, as he is on the opposite side of the aisle from the previous takes that you've heard. Don't want to debate him. I will, if he points out something that's obviously, baffling, I'll question, but want to give him the floor as much as possible to talk about why he likes it. That being said, raising taxes on folks earning less than $200,000 in a midterm election year, probably not the most well-advised strategery, but he'll have the floor at 8:40. Thanks again to Baton Rouge Police Chief Murphy Paul for joining us. Love the conversation going on over on the YouTube chat about, or just a number of different comments about the varied things we talked about during that last segment. No, by the way, welcome to Jared, who's hopped in over on YouTube as well. It's the discussion just keeps going all the way through the break. So if you have not yet experienced it, check it out. We're having fun over there on YouTube, just like we are on air, as it is time to wind back the clock, go back in time. It's time for This Day in History.
All right, Brian, let's go back to 1854.
Oh, it's a good one.
This may have been like mandatory reading when you were in school. I feel like I heard this, but it wasn't something...
Dracula?
No. Right close to that. Henry David Thoreau's classic Walden.
Walden, hell yeah.
A Life in the Woods.
Yeah.
Speaking of summer reading and assignments, it could have been part of a lot of people's...
Summer reading had me a blast. Nope. Too soon?
Well, you're paying tribute. 1945, the atomic bomb was dropped on Nagasaki, Japan. That was just 3 days after the bomb was dropped on Hiroshima. And this second atomic bomb resulted in Japan's unconditional surrender.
It did.
1969.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Get it.
Charles Manson's cult killed 5 people, including actress Sharon Tate.
Yes. Yeah. As the first of 2 nights of Helter Skelter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
1974, Gerald Ford becomes president after Richard Nixon.
Former
resigns.
President Gerald Ford.
One of the best Dana Carveys.
It's so random.
Yeah. Like, was they taping for his vacation?
Right. He wanted to go on a 3-month vacation, so the ABC News made him record every possible news story ever. That's so random. But the thing is, I bet more people get that than not.
1988, the Edmonton Oilers make a trade involving a couple players. Most importantly, a young 27-year-old Wayne Gretzky sent to the Los Angeles Kings.
Yeah.
So,
hey, on this day in 48 BC, Pompeii was defeated by Julius Caesar at the Battle of Pharsalus.
For that, he got a salad.
That was Caesar salad.
That was the reward.
That's how Caesar salad became to be. He says, "Bring me the finest croutons in the land."
The absolute
He
best
did.
croutons.
By the way, Pompey was defeated, but Pompey did cover the number. They did cover the spread. That was odds luck of the week that week in 48 BC.
Mortal luck. 2014 was a tough day in America. Michael Brown killed by a police officer in Ferguson, Missouri, and certainly we know the things that happened following that around the country. Birthdays today, so we'll get to them.
Wait. But before Condon comes down here and hits you in the head with a tack hammer, on this day in 1975, what happened?
Did somebody return a kickoff or something?
The first NFL game in the Louisiana Superdome was held. Houston.
Just the other day, there was the anniversary of it being completed.
Yes.
Yeah, so makes sense.
Houston wins 13-7. Womp womp.
Oh, man.
The Earless.
So I was told we had a billion birthdays. I've just got a couple. Anna
Okay.
Kendrick is 36 years old.
Anna Kendrick, yeah.
Bill Skarsgård. There's a lot of Skarsgård.
Skarsgård?
actors. He's 31.
Is he the one that was in Good Will Hunting?
You're going to put me on the spot. I don't know.
Or the one that was in True Blood?
That's another Skarsgård. I think
too
it's
many
Alexander
Skarsgårds.
Skarsgård.
Okay.
X-Files is what I remember this individual from. Gillian Anderson is 53. Mm-hmm. Coach Prime.
Yeah.
Deion Sanders, 54. My hands are tired. Hoda Kotb is 57.
Hoda Kotb.
If you own some fashionable material, you may know this name. Michael Kors is 62.
Ooh, what about Michael Kors Light?
Yeah? Oh. Speaking of Coors Light, Sam Elliott is 77. That's a transition. That's a
well
voice,
done,
right?
Yeah.
Dan Levy, or Levy? Is it Levy?
Who?
He's the son.
Eugene Levy's son. Yeah, I think it's Levy.
Levy, 38. Speaking of basketball, Bob Cousy, 93. Today.
You see, you only hit a few, but you're knocking them out, man. I'm getting a lot crossed off my list
Okay.
here.
What do you have?
Well, you mentioned hockey a little while ago. Brett Hull was born on this day in 1964.
Heck yeah.
You have former Redskins quarterback Super Bowl winner Doug Williams,
Absolutely.
born on this day in 1955. Hotline, please hold. You've got on this day in 1970, Pat Mahomes. That would be Patrick Mahomes' old man. Pat Mahomes' birthday. Cliff Kingsbury, born on this day in 1979. Former Saints, now Bengals cornerback Eli Apple.
And Pat Mahomes played for Cliff Kingsbury, interesting enough.
Interestingly enough. And then two LSU birthdays. How about Duke Riley?
Yeah.
And Jamarcus Russell.
Awesome.
Yes.
I have one celebrity death. 1995, rather. Grateful Dead's Jerry Garcia, man. Passed
Oh,
away.
man.
I just remember
Don't do it.
Half-Baked.
Yeah.
Jerry Garcia in a bag, man.
Fast forward 20 years.
Yeah.
After 1995, 2015, Frank Gifford. Yeah.
Part of, at least for me, that was my childhood group of Frank, Al, Dan, the Monday Night Football crew.
Yep.
National Book Lovers, Rice Pudding, and Veep Day. Round
Okay.
International Days.
I'll take it. 813 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. We are due up for a quick break when we come back. Let's check in with our state treasurer, John Schroder, next. Yep.
Yes, sir. We got about 1 minute with traffic and we'll be right with you.
Cockapoo-poo. There it is. ESG. 816, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Time to check in with our state's treasurer, John Schroder. Treasurer Schroder, good morning. Welcome back, sir. How are you, man?
You know, I can't complain, Ron. I'm home this morning because I had to cut my grass because of all the rain over the weekend.
I mean,
So,
is it even possible, though? Like, I'll
soaking wet.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll be headed to Baton Rouge when I hang up with you.
It's, it is quite the monumental task getting the grass cut these days between the everyday storms and just the overall growth from around this time of year. Hey, you say you're at home, which is kind of a rarity these days. You've been out traveling a little bit and were recently elected as the chair of the State Financial Officers Foundation. That's no slouch. What put you in position to run for that?
You know, I didn't really run, to be honest with you, and it was a little bit of a surprise. They asked me to do it. This organization basically represents 23 states. There's two treasurers entities that you could belong to, and this is the one I sort of migrated to, a little more conservative, and it's the states that Louisiana has more things in common with. But anyhow, about last week I was elected, and they asked me if I would do it, and I never say no to a challenge. So, like, I got the time for it. But anyway, look, it's really an honor, to be honest with you, to be elected by 23 state treasurers from around the country to run your organization for a year. So I'll take over in October, and you know, really, I've learned a great deal from this organization, Brian. I mean, they, you know, combined, these states control about $3 trillion in money and assets. So we have a big stick. And we've been using it a lot lately. You know, we're bringing the fight directly to Washington on this whole environmental social governance fight, and you know, people are really beginning to understand what that is. But we have a long way to go in educating the public.
So I want to get to the environmental social governance in just a minute. But if you could expound upon, like, what does your taking over the post as chair of this foundation, what does this mean specifically for Louisiana?
Well, look, it brings Louisiana to the forefront. You know, I tell people one of the most frustrating things as state treasurers when you're sitting in a national conference and you're talking about cronyism and corruption. And guess who they always look at? You know, Louisiana's always in that conversation. So I'm proud to lead just so I can show how we do it in Louisiana. And really, you become just a spokesman, but Louisiana is going to get a lot of attention over the next 12 months, especially nationally, as we fight against some of the Biden administration policies that are just really intruding onto the state rights.
Which kind of walks us right back around to the ESG that we were talking about. There's been a growing amount of publicity on this front. Let's start with the basics. Let's rewind. What does ESG, or environmental social governance, actually mean? What the definition of what it is?
Well, I'll give you $1 million if you find a consistent definition. It's something a little different to everybody, and there's things evolving. But you know, I knew you were going to ask me that, so I want to read a quote that I pulled up on my computer. You know, I, with some of my colleagues on the bond commission, pushed back against Bank of America and Citibank almost 4 years ago now. So Louisiana's been paying attention to this for a while now. But here's a quote from Brian Moynihan, who's the chairman and CEO of Bank of America. And this sort of sums it up, what corporate America, because this ESG thing is really about, although the government has started it and the Biden administration has pushed it, it's corporate America that's picking up the torch right now. But let me read this quote to you. This is the CEO and chairman of Bank of America. Quote, "If you look at the amount of money needed to make the fundamental changes that we have to make in the environment or human capital, it far exceeds the ability of any government to deal with. They are running big deficits, and their money is pretty well accounted for. and it far exceeds charity contributions. So who can do it? The big companies that align their whole business system against the goals that the world wants. So what it's saying is government hasn't been able to do it at the ballot box by electing their leaders to do this. Mm-hmm. So we're gonna ask corporate America to put policies in place that forces states to do what they want. That's basically what ESG is.
So
and they do it through environmental, social, and governance policies.
Environmental, yeah, it suggests that it has to do with the physical environment, but it has to do with the social environment every bit as much, and it has to do with shifting the narrative for corporations to push political agendas. What I don't understand about the whole movement is there's always been outlets for this. There are outlets to support whatever cause you've got out there. There are a million special interests already in existence. I don't know why companies have to take on this role, or is this the reverse engineering of those special interests pushing down on companies before pushing down on government?
Well, look, you say engineering, that's a term I use a lot. It's social engineering. Yeah. I mean, look, I say this a lot. Bankers need to bank, businesses need to do their business, and it should be left up to you, the taxpayer, to elect the leaders that you want, to create the policies, enforce the policies that your state wants. I don't think anybody in Louisiana believes that Citibank and Bank of America and BlackRock and some of these big financial institutions ought to be controlling the policy in Louisiana, whether we believe we ought to be in an oil and gas business or any of the fossil fuel businesses, whether we should be in anything. Look, I say this a lot too. Government is not where I look for my economic development. I look to entrepreneurialism for that, and government has now become something that everything wants to control every piece and part of our lives. So, I'm proud to lead the State Financial Officers Foundation. Those are the type of things that we all have in common, because it's states like Alabama, Mississippi, West Virginia, North Carolina, now Texas just joined us recently, Oklahoma, Nebraska. So it's the smaller conservative states. Somebody was joking at a conference with us last week in Atlanta. Houston has like 3 million people in it, just Houston.
Right.
And Louisiana's got 4.6 million. So it's easy for these companies to impose their policies on a state like Louisiana. But we need the network of all of us to stand tall and fight back against this.
Well, and the dirty little secret behind it is, while it might start with well-intentioned social aspects or well-intentioned environmental aspects, it might start from a position that looks like concern. Once you have that political power embedded, it never goes backwards. It always progresses forwards. To that foot in the door pushes the door open even further.
No, and look, where we get criticized is because we've taken this position. What I don't understand is, how can corporate America take a position, but all of a sudden some conservative treasurers, and we'll send you some articles that recently broke that came after this group of treasurers. It's okay for corporate America to push their agendas, but when they have some pushback, then all of a sudden we're the bad guys. I believe I represent the majority of people in Louisiana, and so do these treasurers from around the country.
And the real rub of it is, and we're talking with State Treasurer John Schroder, is that you don't necessarily have to disagree with the policies that they're in favor of. It's just the implementation and the tactics with which they're trying to move them forward.
No question. Look, you and I could both have an opinion, but it's how I, elect to disagree with you. If I, as state treasurer, do not like the position of the radio station or the network, I don't have to spend my money there. But, we're getting criticized for taking action and moving our investments to more conservative type companies who have Louisiana's best at heart, instead of companies who want to control where our jobs come from.
Got a couple of minutes left with State Treasurer John Schroder. Treasurer Schroder, what else has your office been up to outside of the ESG front?
Believe it or not, Brian, we're just catching up. We had a long session, a lot of things going on. We had one of our busier sessions as well in Treasury. We're just rocking and rolling, and as always, we are, pushing our unclaimed property. We've shuffled around our office. It continues to grow, so we can pay more attention because we're averaging about $100 million new dollars a year that we're getting in, and you constantly have to be looking at ways to improve, to get better statistics, because better statistics mean we got more checks out the door. So, but anyhow, that's pretty much everybody's coming back on summer vacation this week with all the kids getting back to school. We have had a little run with COVID, so we've been pretty busy.
I bet. Hey, can I direct one more? This one's kind of out of left field, and I'm not even 100% sure that this would fall under your office, but it involves money and it involves the state, so I want to toss it out there. We've got a few good months under our belt now of mobile sports betting in Louisiana, and we know that money is supposed to be headed in a certain direction. Quite honestly, football season's about to ramp up, so the dollars are going to start really coming in on a very real level. How much oversight does your office have in making sure that any funds that are generated through gambling go where they need to go within our state's budget?
Very little.
Okay.
The Treasury is like the bank, Brian. So it comes to our bank, we put it in the particular funds that it's supposed to be in, and then we send that money to wherever it's supposed to be in state government when they apply for it. Now, we do make sure that those that apply are legally and obligated to be able to do that. But the legislature controls where it gets spent, and I can't remember if they dedicated that money or not. I hope they didn't, which means it would go to the state general fund. But I know it's up, and it's I saw some sales tax numbers this week as well that sales taxes are up. So it looks like the economy's fighting back. I will say, since you brought it up, sports betting is doing real good. There are some things they're doing real good, but I still talk to small business people a lot at home that can't staff a full shift. So I don't know where all these people have disappeared to, but it's still a problem.
No, it is, and it will continue to be a problem. And yeah, like you said, hopefully the economy can keep fighting back in new and inventive ways while we manage our way through it. In the meanwhile, I didn't know if that was your office's job or not, but as soon as college football's here and pro football as well, as soon as we have kickoff, those dollars are going to start flowing turning on a faucet.
It set a national record, I believe, last year when it was implemented. So, people like their sports in Louisiana, and they certainly look like they like betting on them as well.
This guy right here as well. You're talking to one of them. So, knowing what I'm going to be doing means I'll be asking about everybody else as well. In the meanwhile, I greatly appreciate a couple minutes of your time. Congrats on the new post. Congrats even more on actually getting the grass cut. That's not the most easy of tasks this week. And we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Brian.
Absolutely. Thank you. He is State Treasurer John Schroder. We're going to break for news here in just a second. After our break for news, we will check in with Congressman Troy Carter, D.C. Current. We do it every Tuesday. We've got a lot to talk with the Congressman about, not the least of which is the Inflation Reduction Act. Hey, before we get you to news, got to remind you about the folks over at Mathern's Market. I mentioned college football season right around the corner. September 10th will be the first home football game for the LSU Tigers taking on the Southern Jaguars. That is going to be a monumental day for tailgating, right? This is going to be a huge tailgating day. Now, if you don't have all of your stuff when you get on campus, not to worry. Mathern's is right across the street from Tiger Stadium on Nicholson Drive. And yes, they are a full-service grocery store. And yes, they are open on game day. And yes, they are here for everything you need on a game day, and quite honestly, every day in between. If you're heading out towards campus on game day, if you're heading out to tailgate, no reason to go heavy. You stop by Mathern's for everything you need once you get there. Best craft beer selection in Baton Rouge. I swear by their craft beer selection. I love it. Yeah, they got lunches if you want. They got a salad bar if you want. And like I said, they are a full-service grocery store. So You hit campus for tailgating, you realize, oh, we forgot the lighter fluid. No problem. Forgot the charcoal. No problem. It's Mathern's and the Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center. Is that Congressman Carter? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, please.
Look, Congressman. Hey, we got probably at least 4 minutes or so. You want to call back? All right, cool. Thanks, sir. That'll be perfect. Actually, 34. Thank you.
All right. Chief Paul has texted me back, said BRPD didn't investigate the mother involved in the 2-year-old, was not in the city. So. Say again? Sorry. Parish.
What was the determining factor? The second overdose or the third? Like, how do you have to have, like, you ain't gonna be a certified professional social worker to realize there's a problem. I don't get that, right?
Right.
Like, after one, but then he comes in for a second.
Yeah.
Okay, fix it. Like, where? How did it not fix? How are you not just a human being? You know? Yeah, that's not right.
Yeah.
I know there's laws, but something like maybe there's bureaucracy, maybe there's paperwork. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
You guys do traffic reports or whatever. If you're going into the booty area, you might want to turn around.
I mean, it's good advice on a good day. All right. I handle the full forecast here. Oh, man. What? Time to look at that forecast. How are things stacking up for today? Well, we do have a 55% chance of rain throughout the day today. Actually, it's going to kick in around somewhere between 1 and 2 o'clock this afternoon. And stick around for the drive home from school. We've got a 50-50 shot at rain in the 3 p.m. hour, up to a 60% chance of rain from 4 through about 6 o'clock. After that, it scales back for the evening. Our high today is supposed to get up to 88 degrees. Overnight low tonight down to 73. We top out at just 86 tomorrow, 85 on Thursday, 86 on Friday. We're at 87 all the way through at least Wednesday of next week. Right now we're at 81 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge, still looking at 86% humidity. .837, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along every Tuesday. Most Tuesdays, we do our level best to make it every Tuesday. We try to catch up with Congressman Troy Carter, and we do that right now. We call it DC Current. Congressman, welcome aboard. How are you, man? Congressman Carter, you there? All right, we're going to go ahead and drop him back on hold, make sure he's good to go. The Congressman got in early, so it is, all right, he is now disconnected. Give me just a second. Let's get him back on the phone. I'm texting this person right now, texting this press person. Please have him call back. All right. We're going to pick the congressman's brain a little bit on the Inflation Reduction Act and what he thinks the pulse of it is headed over to the House side. We've heard from the RNC this morning. We have heard from another radio talk show host, and, well, God knows I've shared my opinion on it more than enough. So when we reconnect with the congressman, I'm going to just kind of step back and let him have the floor. And if there's anything completely glaring, yeah, I'll ask a few questions along the way. But make no bones about it, this is not setting up for us to have a full-on debate. I want to give equal time, as it were. So hopefully we'll reconnect with the congressman here in just a minute. Oh, hey, got to welcome a new sponsor to the show and ask you what you're doing for lunch today. So if you don't yet have your lunch plans, I would like to point you over to Perkins Road at Zeeland Street. What you're going to find at Perkins Road at Zeeland Street is the Zeeland Street Market. And what you're going to find there is absolutely fantastic good food. Like good food, good for you food. Like cooked with love, home-cooked meals prepared with love. If you're not yet familiar with Zeeland Street, get familiar. Miss Stephanie has been running that place for 30-some-odd years now. It's a Baton Rouge staple. It's on Perkins, right on the Garden District side of the overpass, right there by Varsity Sports. You're going to find daily specials. You're going to find great prices on the food, but more importantly, you're going to find food that is prepared in a way that just brings love to your table. I was by there last week, got to have the brisket. Want to talk about one of the most underrated briskets in Baton Rouge. Look, food is fuel for us, man. You've got to use the food that you consume in a day to get through your day-to-day life. And when you get some fresh vegetables, not the canned stuff, when you get fresh vegetables prepared, when you get fresh vegetables prepared the way that Miss Stephanie does over at Zeeland Street, you know you're getting served the best around. Zeeland Street Market on Perkins at Zeeland Street in the Garden District. In the meanwhile, we're having all kinds of phone problems now. I think we've got Congressman Troy Carter. After, 3-4 rounds worth of a heavyweight fight, we have defeated our phone system to actually get the congressman on with us. Congressman Carter, how are you, man?
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I could not be better. So we've got some stuff we need to get to later on in the interview, but I want to start by giving you the floor. We've been covering the Inflation Reduction Act throughout the morning. I'm just guessing here. I don't know. I'm just guessing here. You're going to have a different take than the takes that have been provided. So,
Well, I'm not sure what take has been provided, but I will tell you this. Here's the take that I give. This will give an opportunity for us to push back on inflation, reduce prescription costs for our seniors, provide a stronger economy in the way of creating green and clean jobs, creating an environment that does not take away from the value of our oil and gas, but enhances it by creating a lesser carbon footprint, creating a cleaner community for its citizens. This is, again, one of those things that we shouldn't spend. We just shouldn't spend when it comes to having significant impacts on saving our earth while providing good jobs and providing the ability for us to negotiate prescription costs so people are not being bombarded at the drugstore. $35 cap out-of-pocket expense for people on insulin. No more than $2,000 a year cap on prescription drugs for our seniors. The ability to negotiate with Big Pharma to give us that opportunity to put money back into the pockets of people. That's just, I don't know how somebody else framed it, but I suspect that it was framed in a political way instead of a human way, and that's just not my calculus. My calculus is to fight for, defend, and support those things that will help the American people, not those things which will help a party.
So the way it was framed earlier in the show was by the Wharton School, who says it won't reduce inflation, by the Joint Committee on Taxation, who says our taxes are going to go up. Those are some of the ideas within there. Now, I'm glad you started with prescription drugs because that's an important one. But
let me push back just 30 seconds on
go for
the professionals that you have. For every professional that you have, you bring Wharton, we bring Harvard Business School. We can go back and forth on what, and it's just like any other economic analysis. Economists differ on approaches. Economists sometimes vehemently disagree on approaches. Doesn't necessarily make one any more right or wrong, but these are people that have studied economies and scales of economy and understand, and they have different views. Now, we have noted economists who vehemently disagree with that. So we can go back and forth on what your professional says versus my professional says, or not yours or mine, but you know what I mean.
Right.
But the reality is, at the end of the day, if you look at the brass tacks of incremental change, one thing we know we cannot do is keep doing what we've been doing.
Well, doing what we've been doing is spending more and more, and this adds to that.
This is not that, and that, again, if you look at the last 4 years under the Trump administration, and you look at the spending that went out of way, that really put us in a position now that we're at least trying to put a down payment on our deficit, $300 billion to start moving in the direction of reducing the deficit instead of just continuing to pile on. The effects of creating jobs through turbines and solar and putting people back to work and giving people the opportunity to be trained for these technical jobs of people that may not go to a traditional 2 or 4 year college but can be educated to be productive in the current workspace. I mean, all of these incremental chips is what's ultimately going to that's going to create the kind of reductions we see in our deficit that we need. This Inflation Reduction Act will go a long way. And, of course, like anything, you can noodle, you can pick, you can prod, but it is the collective will of a lot of different things that's going to move the needle for the American people.
I do want to noodle, pick, and prod, which is why I want to go back to prescription drugs, because I think this is the best part about this bill. This actually would reduce, inflation is an increase in the price of goods and services. This would do the polar opposite of increasing the price of goods when it comes to prescription drugs. Let's talk about why isn't that strong enough to be its own bill? That's a whole other question. But is there something within that can be replicated to other goods and services?
Well, that's exactly it. That's exactly what the whole Inflation Reduction Act is attempting to do, is to identify those ways that we can reduce the cost in the marketplace. This is, and you're right, this is a textbook. This one shows clearly. And the approach is to do just that, to be able to have those, as we refer to, those kitchen table experiences, those experiences that, families are able to really see, gee, this saved me some money.
Mm-hmm.
And when this saves money, this goes into the household, into the education fund, into the opportunity for childcare. We have to enjoy these incremental wins, because that's exactly what it does. If you looked at nothing more, and there's parts that some might dispute, and some parts that some part likes better, but you've highlighted one that really hits to home when you talk about capping insulin prices at $35 a month out of pocket. What does that mean to Miss Sally, who was a school teacher all of her life, who's now retired and is on a fixed income, or Mr. Joe, who gave his entire life to military service and now is on a fixed income, but dependent on insulin, and they're having to make a decision. Can I afford a full dose of insulin, or can I get by with half because I simply can't afford to buy it all? Well, guess what? Now Mr. Joe and Miss Sally and all those others impacted out there, they can do it. These are the incremental changes that we have to celebrate as we move toward making life at the basic level for the American family better.
I'm going to get back to Mr. Joe specifically in just a minute, but I want to ask you, and we've only got 2 minutes left, so I need just a quick, what's the pulse of where the bill's at on the House side?
I think it's going to pass overwhelmingly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hopeful that we will have some of my Republican colleagues to join me in recognizing that prescription drug costs should come down, that we recognize that we can have a clean, green economy without wrecking our oil and gas industry, that our people are our number one resources and we must protect them at all costs from environmental injustice,
mm-hmm.
that we must make sure that we take advantage of this opportunity to create real green jobs that are good paying jobs in the solar and wind industries. I hope that they join me. I feel very optimistic that we will pass it. I'm hopeful we'll pass it with Republican and Democratic support.
All right, now let's go back to Mr. Joe, who gave his life, dedicated his life to military service. He might be a veteran in need of assistance with the VA. You've got an event coming up on Monday. Tell me about it.
Yes, thank you for bringing it up. We will have our curbside that we do. We do LA curbside. This time we'll have one specifying Veterans Affairs. If you're a veteran or need assistance with the VA, constituent services, we will have our team on the ground, along with federal agencies in Baton Rouge at Southern University, at the Valdry Center, 598 Harding Boulevard, East Baton Rouge. Baton Rouge, rather. Monday, August 15th, from 11 to 3. That's at Southern University. We will have all of our federal officials on the ground in the area of Veterans Affairs to bring government to the people. This is a series that we've been doing for the last year and a half, and it's been very successful. We've been out throughout the entire district with various agencies that we bring in tow to literally bring government to the people.
The phone number for more information is 504-288-3777, 504-288-3777. Congressman Troy Carter, I appreciate your time this morning, man. We'll talk to you next week.
Yes, sir. Have a good one now.
You do the same. All right, I'm going to have to unpack a little bit of that after the break. Here comes Your Money Now, followed by traffic. We'll close it out next on Talk 107.3. You know I catch crap for it because Who? Shmadabadababa. Ugh. So I'm deleting the spam now. Kevin says great breakfast at Zealand. Oh, dude. So I've yet to go over there for breakfast. But every time I bring them up, because I've had the brisket, if you've not yet had the grilled black drum salad, freaking game changer and like supercharge you for the rest of your day. Anyway, everybody I've talked to is like, you got to eat the breakfast. Anybody in the know gets the breakfast. I'm like, bro, I'm on I'm on the air during breakfast. Anyway, Miss Stephanie hit me up a couple weeks ago, and she's like, I want to get you over here. And y'all know I don't speak on behalf of anybody unless I am a huge fan, unless I fully support them in real life. And once I got over there, once, twice, and I'm addicted and we'll be going back for more. Totally on board. .855 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Thanks again to Congressman Troy Carter for hopping on board for DC Current. Look, so I catch hell every single week because a lot of a news talk radio audience is going to be conservative. Congressman Troy Carter is not. Now, he might tell you he looks at everything through an individual lens, but he has political leanings himself. And I'm not going to pretend that doesn't exist. He has said on this show in the past that he loves his D behind his name, his Democrat behind his name. That's an actual quote. So make no bones about it, but that doesn't mean we can't talk. That doesn't mean we can't hear from him. That doesn't mean we can't share ideas. Just because someone is of a different political background doesn't mean that every once in a while they're going to be right. I just think he's not on this one. The prescription drug and insulin part of this, I'm leaning towards yes. All the rest of it, no. And the reason for that is, what is inflation? This is the Inflation Reduction Act. What is inflation? Inflation is, just to dumb it down to its lowest common denominator, an increase in the price of goods and services within an economy. Why does inflation happen? Because it can. Things beef up like that. And I know I'm oversimplifying it. But one of the big reasons we're seeing the inflation we're seeing now is due to all the spending we saw during COVID. And I'm realizing it now. I should have caught this the moment he said it. He talked about the spending under the Trump administration. A lot of that spending came in the last year when COVID hit. A lot of that spending came with the pandemic when everybody got sent home and no one was allowed to work. That spending continued on into the Biden administration, and just because a pandemic hits and we start spending doesn't mean we need to keep spending once it's over with. Anyway, of the things that he mentioned, none of them reduce prices. Inflation is an increase in the cost of goods and services throughout an economy. None of what he mentioned will actually reduce those prices. Yes, you can add more jobs. Yes, you can fight climate change. Yes, you can solve all the woes of the world you want to, but it's the Inflation Reduction Act, and nothing it does reduces inflation. Except for the prescription drug end. And oh, by the way, and this is the dirty part that economists need to do better at when it comes to putting the message out there. When it comes to reducing inflation, the more outside hand you have involved in tilting the scales, you're going to see greater repercussions down the road. The more influence you get from Capitol Hill to dictate this, yes, you can keep things teetering on a balance for a little while, but the explosion will be that much greater later on. So, anyway, thanks again to everybody who hopped on board on the show today. I was supposed to get to one other thing before I got out of here. And I'm not going to have time to get to it. Thanks again to all the guests that hopped on board today. It's been a busy show guest-wise. We had Jeff Crouere, Cassidy and Clark Freeman in our first hour. We had Nathan Brand from the RNC and Chief Murphy Paul. Great conversation with Chief Murphy Paul in the second hour. State Treasurer John Schroder and Congressman Troy Carter in this hour. It's all available, or will be all available, on demand at talk1073.com. Or if you want to pull up that YouTube channel, Mornings with Brian Haldane is where you go. Please hit that subscribe button when you do go there. And there's been a lot of great interaction with the YouTube audience as well. We got to get out of here for today. I don't know what's in store for tomorrow yet. I know we're looking to line up a Metro Council person, as there will be a lot to talk about on the Metro Council front, not just on a police pay raise or homelessness, but the maps are taking an interesting turn, and I'm hearing a lot more frustration from those who are going to be in the lines of demarcation, who are those who might have districts shaping up differently than they used to. That and a whole lot more coming your way tomorrow, right here on Talk 107.3. All right, before we get out of here, I want to address a couple of the comments. Inflation reduction is an oxymoron. A little bit, yes. It is. But yes, cost reduction, price reduction. That's what inflation reduction is. Reducing the rate at which costs are going up. So I was an econ major in college. This is why it's hard not to debate the congressman when he's on and just kind of give him the floor. But the more outside influence there is, the greater the repercussions are going to be. Paul says, Carter said putting people back to work, but they said there are more jobs than workers right now. Paul, don't buy into that myth, because there are plenty of out-of-work workers right now. They're just not filing for unemployment. They're not showing up in unemployment numbers because they've just given up. Or they're doing their own thing, or they're in the gig economy, or they're trying to launch something on an entrepreneurial level, or they've gone back to school. But the workers are there. They're just not showing up in traditional unemployment numbers. Kevin says, I keep hearing about all the jobs we have now, but the real question is how many people have not returned to work since free money COVID? See, I don't know that, because you can't put a quantifiable number on it because it falls into so many different categories. So one more before I get out of here, and that is Lucas says, I keep hearing about all the jobs too, but when I look, all I see is fast food and low-pay jobs. That's going to start shifting. You see the fast food and low-pay jobs because they advertise everywhere for it. So, guys, thank you all so much for hopping on board today. I appreciate the interaction, and we will have more conversation coming your way tomorrow. Appreciate it. Later.